Stop fighting each other. Captain Ibrahim Traore's voice rolled like thunder across the packed football stadium. In the wide sea of faces, some wearing bright church choir robes, others in neat Friday mosque caps, every eye locked on him. Behind the captain, a huge screen showed one single line in red. Our division is their greatest weapon. For a moment the world felt frozen. Then a ripple of shock washed over the crowd. Children gasped. Elders clutched their walking sticks. Reporters dropped their microphones. Traore raised one hand, and the stadium lights dimmed. If Christians and Muslims stay apart, he said, outside powers will keep stealing our land, our gold, our future. A deep, uneasy murmur grew louder and louder until it sounded like surf crashing on rocks. Suddenly, somewhere high in the stands, a flare shot up, green sparks hissing, painting shaky shadows on every face. Security guards ran. People screamed. The screen behind Traore flickered, then went black. Like what you're hearing. Traore's voice boomed through the speakers one last time. Then tap like and subscribe if you're new, because this story is just beginning. The lights cut out completely, and then, from the darkness, came a single ear-splitting bang that shook the stadium floor. What was that? Who fired? Everything went silent except for a baby crying somewhere near Gate 3. Earlier that morning, Kwesi, a skinny 10-year-old with curious eyes, kicked a half-flat football along the dusty road to school. His best friend, 9-year-old Halima, raced beside him, her purple headscarf flapping like a little flag. "Are you going to the big unity rally after class?" Halima asked. "Of course," Kwesi puffed, trapping the ball under his heel. "Captain Traore himself will speak. My uncle says it's history in the making." Halima grinned. "My auntie says Christians and Muslims shouldn't mix too much. But my mom says we're all people first, so I'm going anyway." They both laughed and chased the ball again, clouds of red dust swirling behind them. At school the teacher, Madam Yara, read the day's lesson from a torn textbook. "When people stand together, no one can break them," she said. "Even a bundle of weak sticks, if tied as one, is strong." She looked up. "Tonight the whole city will bundle together. I want each of you to draw a picture of unity." Kwesi drew a tall tree whose roots were shaped like praying hands. One hand wearing a rosary, one holding prayer beads. Halima drew two doves sharing a single olive branch. Madam Yara pinned every drawing on the wall, forming a bright paper quilt. When the final bell rang, Kwesi dashed home. His grandmother sat shelling peanuts on the wooden porch. "Granny, come to the stadium with me," he begged. She shook her silver head. "My bones can't handle big crowds. But take this." She pressed a woven wristband into his palm. Red, white, and green threads twisted together. "These are church colors and mosque colors side by side," she said. "Wear it and remember. Faith should lift, never split." Kwesi hugged her, slipped the band on, and hurried away. The streets seemed different that afternoon. Posters of Traore fluttered from every lamppost. Vendors sold paper flags printed with doves and crescent moons hugging wooden crosses. Yet not everyone smiled. Near the market, two groups faced each other, shouting. One side wore bright choir sashes. The other waved green prayer mats. A man in sunglasses, pinning a foreign news badge to his chest, snapped photos eagerly. Halima tugged Kwesi's sleeve. "Let's go around," she whispered. They ducked into an alley, hearts thumping. As they cut between tin-roofed shops, they overheard a sharp voice. "Once the speech starts, fire the flare near Gate B. That will set them against each other. Chaos makes good headlines." Kwesi and Halima pressed their backs to the wall. Two strangers, one tall, one short, studied a map of the stadium. Both carried bulky camera bags. "Who are they?" Halima mouthed. Kwesi didn't know, but the thin hairs on his arms stood up. The kids waited until the men left, then ran the rest of the way. Outside, security guards waved people through metal scanners. Drums beat. Choirs sang Hallelujah. Muezzins answered with Allahu Akbar from portable speakers. The sound mixed into one powerful, joyful roar. Inside, Kwesi and Halima squeezed into row 57. From there they could see the stage, the giant screen, and rows of soldiers standing at attention. Traore marched up the steps right on time, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing his signature red beret. The crowd erupted like fireworks. Halima clapped so hard her palms stung. Traore saluted, then spoke calmly for a while, about water wells, new schools, and farms that would feed every child. Kwesi felt proud, almost safe. But then Traore's eyes hardened. He raised his fist. "We face a greater danger." The stadium grew quiet enough to hear someone drop a bottle cap. Traore pointed toward the church group on the west stand and the mosque group on the east. "They want brothers and sisters to look at each other with fear," he thundered. "Because when we fight over heaven, they steal our earth." Gasps rippled through the seats. Kwesi remembered the men in the alley. Was this the danger? He looked around. No sign of them. Still, a strange tension crept over the stadium like fog. Traore's words rolled on. "They study our holy books only to find ways to break them apart. But we—" That was when the green flare hissed up from Gate B, bright as a dragon's tongue, showering sparks over the east stands. People screamed. A wave of bodies surged toward the field. Traore tried to speak, but the mic crackled and died. The screen blacked out. Soldiers raised shields. Kwesi grabbed Halima's hand. "Those men!" he shouted over the chaos. "They're doing this." Before Halima could answer, the stadium lights cut off. Darkness swallowed everything. And then bang! A flash lit the field. Smoke rose. For 3 seconds no one breathed. When the smoke cleared a bit, Kwesi saw something that froze the blood in his veins. Captain Traore lay on one knee, clutching his shoulder. His red beret had fallen onto the grass. A thin line of blood trickled down his arm. Around him, soldiers formed a wall, rifles pointing outward. Over the loudspeakers, a shaky voice, maybe the announcer, cried, "Stay calm. Do not stamp." The message cut off in a squall of static. Halima's fingers squeezed Kwesi's so hard it hurt. "We have to help," she said, tears shining in her eyes. Kwesi looked down at his wristband, the threads of church and mosque colors glowing faintly in emergency lights. He took a breath. Just then the tall stranger from the alley appeared on the field, raising a megaphone. "If you want peace," the man yelled, "then Christians, come this way, Muslims, stay where you are." That single sentence sliced the crowd in two like a hot knife through butter. Panic crashed over the stands again, 10 times worse. Kwesi made a decision. He clutched the wristband, pulled Halima close, and pushed into the choking smoke toward the stage where Traore knelt. Soldiers shouted, "Stay back!" But Kwesi kept moving. As he reached the railing, a heavy boot slammed the ground in front of him. Kwesi looked up, into the mask of a soldier whose rifle was pointed straight at the children. Halima screamed. The soldier's rifle didn't move. His face was hidden under a black visor, but his finger hovered close, too close, above the trigger. Kwesi froze. Halima hid behind him, shaking like a leaf in a storm. Then, just as suddenly, another voice barked from behind the soldier. "Stand down. They're kids." The rifle lowered. The soldier stepped aside, and from the shadows behind him emerged a young officer, barely in his 20s, with a scar on his cheek and a badge that read Lieutenant Diallo. "Get them out of here," the soldier snapped. "No," Lieutenant Diallo said firmly, looking down at Kwesi. "They came toward the fire, not away. That means they know something." Halima finally found her voice. "The flare. It wasn't an accident. 2 men. By the alley. They planned it." Diallo's eyes narrowed. "Where?" Kwesi pointed beyond the stadium, toward the narrow streets behind the west side gates. "They had cameras, but they weren't journalists." Diallo nodded. "Come with me." As the stadium shook with shouting and sirens, Diallo led Kwesi and Halima through a back gate and into the underground service tunnels. The lights flickered overhead like scared lightning bugs. "Traore's wounded," Diallo said as they moved. "Bullet grazed his shoulder. Not fatal. But the people don't know that yet. They think it was an attack." By the other side. Which is exactly what they want, Kwesi muttered. Diallo glanced at him. You're sharp for your age. Keep thinking like that and you'll be a leader one day. They emerged into a dark alley near the power station behind the stadium. One of Diallo's men waited with a small radio, his ear pressed close. Sir, the soldier said. News reports are already spinning it. One headline says, Muslim sniper shoots at Christian rally. Another says, Christian mob storms peaceful speech. It's spreading like wildfire. Kwesi's stomach turned. Halima clenched her fists. They're trying to make everyone pick sides. They're not just trying, Diallo said grimly. They're winning. 10 minutes later, they reached a small safe house 3 blocks away. Inside, Captain Ibrahim Traore sat on a low wooden chair, his shoulder bandaged and eyes burning with focus. His red beret sat on the table beside him, stained with dust and blood. He looked up as they entered. These the kids? Diallo nodded. Sir, they overheard the saboteurs. They know the plan. Traore rose slowly, his face hard with pain but steady. He crouched before Kwesi and Halima. You two risked your lives. Why? Kwesi looked down at the woven band on his wrist. Because if people think the other side attacked them, they'll fight. But you said it. Our division is their weapon. We had to help stop it. For a second, something like pride flickered in Traore's eyes. You listened better than most grown-ups. He motioned to a laptop on the table. On the screen were feeds from drones circling the stadium. It showed 2 figures, one tall, one short, slipping through the crowd toward an armored van with no license plate. That's them, Halima whispered. The alley men. Traore stood. They're not just causing division. They're documenting it, spreading it through media, turning truth into poison. If we don't act fast, this will start riots in 5 countries by morning. He turned to Diallo. We're going after them. But sir, Diallo said, you're injured. I'm not dead, Traore replied. Kwesi stepped forward. We want to come. Traore stared at him. You're brave, but this is war now. A war for minds, not bullets. We've already been part of it, Halima said. And we know the city. Let us help. Traore paused. Then he smiled faintly. Then you're in. They climbed into 2 SUVs, Traore in the front with Diallo, the kids in the second with a driver named Bako. Through winding streets, the city looked like a boiling pot. Sirens, smoke, shattered windows. Over the radio, a new report came through. Christian youth attack mosque in the East Quarter. Retaliation for shooting. Halima shook her head. That's not true. It didn't even happen like that. Kwesi looked out the window. But now they think it did. And that's enough to start a war. Just then, the van with the saboteurs turned onto the main road ahead. There! Bako shouted. They gave chase. Tires screeched. People dove out of the way as the armored van weaved through traffic. Bako slammed the horn. The van turned sharply onto a bridge over the river. The kids' car followed fast. But just as they reached the middle of the bridge, a blinding white flash exploded ahead. Boom! The road cracked beneath them. The bridge shook like a beast had roared beneath it. The van made it across barely. But the SUV with the kids skidded sideways. Steel cracked. Concrete crumbled. Kwesi's eyes widened as the front of the car tipped downward, over the broken edge of the bridge. Halima screamed. The last thing Kwesi saw was the open river below, dark as oil, rushing up to meet them. The SUV plunged nose first off the broken bridge. Kwesi's scream was swallowed by wind and water as the cold river exploded around the car. The windshield shattered. The world spun. Then darkness. For a long moment, Kwesi couldn't tell if he was alive or dreaming. The river wrapped around him like icy chains. Somewhere nearby, Halima's voice bubbled faintly, but then it vanished under the weight of rushing water. Kwesi kicked. The car was sinking. One hand found his seatbelt. He struggled, coughed, pulled. Click! The belt came loose. The car tilted deeper. Kwesi's eyes stung. His ears popped. He reached for Halima, felt her arm, then her hand. She wasn't moving. No. He kicked his feet hard, braced one leg on the door, and shoved. The door budged. Light flickered through the murky water. He kicked again, this time it burst open. Air bubbles rushed past his face. He pulled Halima through the opening and pushed upward, lungs screaming. Just go up. With one last kick, they broke the surface. Halima coughed and gasped. They were alive. A small patrol boat roared toward them. Diallo was at the helm, soaked in sweat and rain. There you are, he shouted, yanking them aboard. Behind them, the SUV disappeared into the river, swallowed by shadows. I saw the explosion, Diallo said. Did you see where the van went? Kwesi nodded, still shivering. They crossed the bridge, toward the old broadcasting station. Diallo's face darkened. Then they're heading for the emergency satellite dish. If they upload a live feed from that tower, it's over. They'll ignite the continent in lies. The team regrouped in an armored jeep. Traore, his shoulder stiff in a sling, met them at the foot of the broadcasting tower. I saw the blast, he said, voice tight. Did you think you could finish this without me? Kwesi grinned through his soaked clothes. We knew you'd be waiting. Traore nodded. We end it here. The group climbed through the abandoned lobby of the old station. Rain pounded the windows. Power cables sparked. Every shadow seemed to move. Inside the main control room, they found what they feared. The two saboteurs were already inside. One man stood at a console uploading files. The other held a pistol, watching the door. Kwesi ducked behind a wall. They're live-streaming it, he whispered. Probably fake videos, old footage, anything to make Christians and Muslims hate each other. Halima pointed. That's the same man from the alley. He said chaos makes good headlines. Traore raised a finger. Then let's give them a headline. The door burst open. Drop it. Traore roared, rifle raised. The man with the pistol turned, too slow. Diallo tackled him. The gun clattered across the floor. The other saboteur shouted, Too late. The file is uploading. Kwesi didn't think. He ran. Past the chaos. Past the broken lights. He leapt at the console and slammed his fist into the power button. Nothing. Then he saw a small red switch below it. Backup battery mode, on. He flipped it. The screen went black. New! The saboteur screamed. Do you have any idea what we just lost? Traore stepped forward. Yes, a war. Later that night, Traore went live on national television, not from the tower, but from a simple community hall. He wore no medals, just a plain shirt and his old red beret. Beside him stood Kwesi and Halima. He spoke directly to the camera. Today, someone tried to make Christians and Muslims in Africa destroy each other. They used lies. They used fear. But they failed because a few children remembered something powerful. They remembered unity. He held up the woven wristband Kwesi had worn, now dry, but still bright. This, he said, is stronger than any bullet. He paused. I don't care what God you pray to. I care if you protect your neighbor. If your church feeds the hungry, if your mosque shelters the poor, then you are my brother. You are my sister. We must never let them divide us again. The crowd watching across the continent burst into cheers. In Lagos, in Dakar, in Nairobi, even in quiet villages where news traveled slowly, people clapped as the message reached their radios. The men who caused the chaos were arrested. Evidence revealed they were paid by outside interests, companies and powers that had made millions selling guns and stealing minerals while Africans fought each other. But now something had changed. Churches and mosques began meeting together. Schools started teaching unity as part of their curriculum. The bridge that had broken during the chase, it was rebuilt with symbols of both faiths engraved on its side. Weeks later, Kwesi and Halima sat again on the dusty road, kicking the half-flat ball between them. Do you think they'll try again? Halima asked. Kwesi shrugged. Maybe. Are you scared? He looked at the bracelet still on his wrist. No, because now we know. Know what? Kwesi smiled. That our division is their greatest weapon, but our unity is their greatest fear. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more powerful, truth-filled tales like this, Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Loudspeaker Sparkles. Your support helps keep stories like these alive. Stories that inspire, unite, and shine light on what really matters. Fire. Hit the notification bell so you never miss the next chapter in Africa's journey. Stay awake. Stay wise. Stay united. We rise together. Raised fist, dark skin tone globe showing Europe-Africa collision.